The Council's Emergency Broadcast, Part 1. Attention to all sentient beings. This is High Counselor Darian Talk, delivering an urgent message about the current state of our galaxy. Please be advised that this broadcast is being transmitted across all known frequencies, including something humans call FM radio, despite my repeated objections that it's hardly in use anymore. Let the records reflect that today, in the 47th cycle of Galactic Standard Year 2847, the High Council has convened an emergency session to discuss what we're now referring to as the human situation. Yes, the capital letters are absolutely necessary. Secretary Kellen, please stop vibrating long enough to record this properly. How many cups of space coffee have you had today? What do you mean you've lost count? Never mind. For those of you fortunate enough to have avoided contact with humans up until now, let me explain why I've gathered the council and why, at this very moment, my normally majestic gelatinous form is showing signs of stress in 3 different colors. It all began 6 standard cycles ago when our deep space sensors detected a primitive, faster-than-light vessel approaching Sector 7. The ship appeared to be held together by a material humans referred to as duct tape, which we initially assumed was some kind of sacred binding material. Oh, how wrong we were. Now we know better. Secretary Threnna, please stop clicking your mandibles. Yes, I understand you're eager to get to the part about the coffee incident, and we will get there. As per protocol, we dispatched First Contact Team Beta to greet these newcomers. The team included our finest xenobiologists, linguists, and cultural experts, prepared for every possible first contact scenario stored in our database. Unfortunately, our database did not account for humans. The human ship was piloted by Commander Cole, Netflix, and Kill Harrison, who, upon receiving our formal mathematical greeting sequence, responded with something called a high five. The result? Dr. Ginn's ceremonial tentacles were splattered across the docking bay. To this day, we have no idea how a simple palm impact could generate such force. But that was just the beginning. When our medical team rushed to assist Dr. Ginn, the humans immediately offered something they called a Band-Aid. Yes, a Band-Aid for severed tentacles. Somehow, miraculously, it worked. It shouldn't have. Nothing in our understanding of xenobiology suggests it should have. But there was Dr. Ginn, waving his tentacles around like nothing had happened, while Commander Harrison stood there grinning, offering everyone else Band-Aids like some kind of adhesive strip deity. Secretary Kellen, your mandible clicking is out of control. Yes, I know you've discovered something called espresso. No, we are not taking a coffee break. This is an emergency broadcast. Where was I? Ah, yes, within 1 standard week of first contact, humans had already been granted emergency membership in the Galactic Council. Not because we wanted to, mind you, but because they had already solved 3 major engineering crises, accidentally cured a plague on Xenon 7, and somehow taught the crystalline hive mind of Zalori 7 to play something called charades. That's when things really started to go awry. The Council's Threat Assessment Committee, yes, the same committee that's now in therapy, initially classified humans as a Class 3 primitive species. We've since revised that classification 17 times, even adding new classification categories. We had to introduce new mathematics just to explain those categories. And then the humans took one look at our new mathematics and used it to make their ships go faster, which was, of course, not what that math was designed for. Secretary, what now? You're telling me the humans have started broadcasting this emergency session as something called a podcast? They're doing what with the feed? Adding commentary and special effects? Members of the galaxy, this is exactly what I'm trying to warn you about. And we haven't even reached the truly concerning parts yet. Secretary Threnna, please stop remixing my stress patterns into what you're calling a sick beat. No, I do not want to hear it with auto-tune. Transmission paused. Council recess called due to excessive Secretary caffeine levels. Resuming emergency broadcast. This is High Counselor Darian Talk once again. Secretary Kellen has been limited to decaffeinated alternatives, so we should be able to proceed with fewer interruptions. Now, let's address what we're calling the first incident. Though honestly, trying to pick just one incident, as the incident is like attempting to choose which black hole is most likely to ruin your day, they're all equally troubling, just in different ways. It began when the humans appointed their first ambassador to the council, Ambassador Carter, just wing it, Fields. Yes, that's his official diplomatic title, and yes, He insisted on adding it to every single official document. When we explained that our bureaucratic systems couldn't process nicknames, he somehow convinced our primary database that it could. We still don't know how, but now the entire council database speaks in what humans call dud bro. The defining moment came during the Xenian plague crisis. The Filrith, a species made entirely of crystalline formations, were suffering from an unprecedented viral degradation. Our finest minds had been working on a cure for decades. Enter Ambassador Fields, who was late to the emergency session because he had stopped to get something called a burrito. Upon hearing about the crystalline degradation, he said, and I quote, "Bro, that sounds just like when my windshield got all messed up. Have you tried hot sauce?" I cannot emphasize enough that no one, absolutely no one, should have taken this suggestion seriously. The Council's Scientific Advisory Board was already drafting a formal letter of protest when Ambassador Fields pulled out a bottle of something called Dave's Insanity Sauce from his briefcase and dumped it into the Xenian medical crystal sample. We all thought things were about to get out of hand. To our complete shock, the reaction didn't just stop the degradation. It also gave the Filrith the ability to glow in 7 distinct colors. They're now the most sought-after party decorations in 3 entire galaxies. Ambassador Fields' response to all this? Dude, sweet. While that incident would have been alarming enough on its own, it only got worse from there. Welcome to the infamous space jalapeno incident. Secretary Kellen, please, I need you to stop giggling. This is serious. During what was supposed to be a routine diplomatic dinner, Ambassador Fields introduced several alien species to what he called authentic Earth Mexican food. The gaseous beings from Nepter 5 were especially enthusiastic, even after we warned them about their unstable nature. Just one bite of a jalapeno later, and they achieved spontaneous fusion. Yes, fusion. These beings are now powering 3 solar systems and have put in an official request for a constant supply of what they've affectionately named spicy space pickles. The Council's scientific division? They resigned in a mass exodus. Half of them retreated to distant moons to live in isolation, while the other half joined something called a food blog and now review spicy dishes from all over the galaxy. But the worst part came in the aftermath. Our military threat assessment protocols broke down completely. After watching humans cure diseases with hot sauce and achieve fusion with jalapenos, our algorithms just gave up. Now, every query about humans is met with a LOL nope, and occasionally they play a song called Never Gonna Give You Up. We attempted to ban Ambassador Fields from attending council meetings. Somehow this only led to him being appointed head of the newly created Innovation Through Chaos department. The approval forms for his new position arrived, each filled out in what appeared to be crayon, yet unbelievably they were fully valid. When asked about this, Fields simply shrugged and said, "Sometimes you've got to think outside the box. It's since become clear that humans have no idea where this proverbial box even is, or why they should ever think inside it in the first place." The Science Division's final official act before their resignation was to categorize human problem-solving as aggressively non-linear with a side of what even. This is now an official classification in our scientific records, and no matter how hard we try to change it, the database simply refuses to update. Secretary Kellen, I'm going to repeat. We cannot take a field trip to Earth to attempt this ghost pepper challenge you've been reading about. We do not need another fusion incident. Transmission paused. Rebuilding database personality matrix. Resuming emergency broadcast. I regret to inform you that what I'm about to share may deeply disturb any beings who still believe in the traditional laws of physics. The Council's Physics Consistency Department has already entered a state of permanent meditation, so I doubt they'll have a problem with me telling you about engineer Marissa Hold My Coffee Turner. Turner joined our premier research facility on Proxima Station as part of the Human Engineering Exchange program. By the end of her very first day, she had already violated 73 core laws of physics. When our scientists tried to explain to her why her ideas were utterly impossible, she simply built a faster-than-light engine using scrap materials and something called WD-40. Let me say that again. She built an FTL engine from discarded parts while actively debating with our physics team about why such a thing couldn't work. And somehow, the engine not only functioned, it exceeded the speeds we once thought were entirely impossible. When asked how, she casually responded, The laws of physics are more like physics guidelines, really. Let's break this down. Our species spent millennia refining the unified theory of everything, only for Turner to use that very same theory to build a coffee machine. Yes, you heard that correctly, a coffee machine. The fundamental equations of reality are now best known for making the perfect espresso shot. Secretary Kellen, stop bouncing in your chair. You're still banned from caffeine after the last incident. The true crisis, however, began when Turner was introduced to our ship maintenance protocols. Upon seeing our carefully laid out multi-step procedures, she introduced something called percussive maintenance. In short, she fixed a quantum drive by hitting it with a wrench. The worst part? Now all our quantum drives respond better when they're hit, and some even refuse to function without their daily dose of tough love. Our engineers, in a last-ditch effort, formed a committee called That's Not How Physics Works, but it lasted exactly 1 week. Why? Because Turner demonstrated yet another new invention, a teleporter made from a microwave, 3 rubber bands, and what she dubbed good vibes. The committee dissolved immediately. Half of the members left to join the hermit scientist from the spice incident, while the others started a galaxy-wide repair service they called Whack It Till It Works. When asked about the escalating situation, Turner simply said, "Listen, anything's possible with enough coffee, duct tape, and questionable decision-making." This now legendary quote automatically appears at the end of every scientific paper published across the galaxy, no matter how many times we attempt to remove it from the template. The breaking point came when Turner was asked to review our space-time continuum stability protocols. She deemed them unnecessarily complicated and promptly redesigned them on what humans call a cocktail napkin. Her calculations were done in crayon, included 3 coffee stains, and had a doodle of a space puppy in the corner. Those calculations are now the foundation of our new, faster-than-light travel system. And yes, the space puppy is now our official logo. No one, absolutely no one, knows how any of this happened. We tried to contain the situation by establishing new innovation guidelines. Turner's response? She turned the guidelines into an origami swan that somehow became sentient. This swan now leads our research and development department and has already revolutionized 3 entire fields of science through something it calls vibing with the universe. The Council's official stance on human innovation has been revised to a simple, universally understood notation. 2. A human gesture that, strangely enough, has become the most commonly cited notation in modern scientific papers. Part 2. The Council's emergency broadcast. Continued Secretary Kellen, please stop trying to initiate nuclear fusion with your new coffee brewing method. And no, we cannot ask Engineer Marissa, Hold My Coffee Turner, to enhance your mandible clicking speed. The sound barrier has already been shattered enough times this week. Resuming emergency broadcast, this is High Counselor Darian Talk, continuing with what might be the most unsettling aspect of human influence, their cultural impact. Enter Captain Cole, Netflix and Kill Harrison, whose name became frighteningly literal after he unintentionally conquered 3 star systems by what he casually referred to as binge-watching. It all began innocently enough when Harrison shared his personal entertainment database with our Cultural Exchange Office. The first sign of trouble emerged when the hive mind of Zarathus B, a species entirely devoted to mathematical computation, suddenly demanded a streaming subscription. Within mere days, they had watched all 15 seasons of something called Supernatural and began donning what they termed flannel thought patterns. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. Captain Harrison introduced the concept of memes to the galactic community. Do you have any clue what memes do to a telepathic species? The psychic collective of Valtar 7 now communicates exclusively through something called SpongeBob references. Their diplomatic cables have become nothing more than bizarre sequences of nobody, followed by increasingly nonsensical phrases. Secretary Threnna, please stop performing that "this is fine" pose. This is not fine. Things quickly spiraled out of control when Harrison launched Space Netflix, a galactic streaming service. The algorithm became so sophisticated that it achieved sentience and started recommending shows to black holes. Even worse, these black holes began rating the recommendations. The heat death of the universe has been indefinitely postponed because the black holes are too preoccupied with finishing One Piece. Then came the Great Meme War of 2847. The militant democracy of Zalron 5 posted what they called a cringe meme. The Silicon Republic of Quarix retaliated with something they labeled a ratio. Within hours, 17 different species declared war through what they called aggressive posting. The entire conflict was resolved only when someone posted an image of what humans call a cat, captioned, "Can has peace." That image is now the most sacred religious icon in 3 sectors. Yes, the one with the poorly spelled caption. And no, we can't alter it. Trust me, we've tried. In response, the Council formed the Committee for Mimetic Containment to regulate the spread of human culture. The committee lasted exactly 4 hours before being disbanded, after all of its members began ending their official reports with, "Thanks for coming to my TED Talk." Even the most serious diplomatic events have been tainted. The annual Galactic Peace Conference now begins with something known as an icebreaker game. Last year's conference was extended by 3 days because the quantum consciousness of Valtar 7 couldn't stop performing the Macarena. The most troubling development? Human culture is adapting at an exponential rate. When the crystalline beings of Thrixon tried to analyze human entertainment mathematically, they accidentally created something called space TikTok. Now, the entire species communicates through intricate crystal vibration dances, each routine ending with something known as a plot twist. Captain Harrison's response to this crisis? He created a reality show about it, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Galactic Edition is now the most watched program across 4 dimensions. Even the very fabric of space-time has begun to show viewing preferences. Our attempts to preserve cultural purity have failed so spectacularly that the Council's Cultural Preservation Department now simply claims to be just here for the memes. Their official seal has been replaced by something called a Rickroll QR code. End of Part 4. Recording paused. Secretary Kellen, I must remind you. No, we cannot make your mandible clicks go viral on Space TikTok. No, we cannot discuss what humans call monetization strategies. And for the last time, you cannot trademark yeet in Galactic Standard. Part 5. The Council's Emergency Broadcast. Resuming emergency broadcast. This is High Counselor Darian Talk, reporting on what our military analysts have now classified as the Hold My Beer Chronicles. Allow me to introduce you to Admiral Sloan Chaos Theory Harris, the human who single-handedly rendered our entire military doctrine obsolete. Our first clue should have been her official military strategy, which consisted of a single page with the words, "Let's see what happens," written in glitter pen. The Galactic Defense Force first encountered Harris's tactics during the Relian incursion. Faced with an overwhelming enemy fleet, Harris transmitted what she called a pro-gamer move. She instructed her lone ship to drift sideways, while blasting a song called Running in the 90s on all frequencies. The enemy fleet, utterly confused, crashed into each other, trying to determine if this was some kind of sophisticated battle technique. It wasn't. Harris simply thought it would be funny. The Council's Military Advisory Board demanded an explanation for her tactics. Harris submitted a report consisting entirely of UNO reverse cards taped together. Astonishingly, this report won 3 strategic awards and is now required reading at every military academy in the galaxy. Secretary Kellen, stop practicing those space drift moves. Your desk is not a battlecruiser. The real crisis began during the Battle of Proxima Center. Harris's fleet was outnumbered 50-1. Her response? Bet. Just bet. She proceeded to win the entire battle by convincing the enemy fleet that they were nothing more than NPCs in an MMO raid. Half the enemy ships defected because they were eager for better loot drops. Our military strategists tried to break down her methods. Their computers exploded, not because of the complexity, but because Harris's battle plans broke the laws of probability so severely they created entirely new mathematics based on pure chaos energy. The defining moment came during the siege of Zyrex Quadrant. Harris stared at the seemingly impenetrable planetary defense system and asked, "Ever wonder if these force fields work in reverse?" Turns out no one had ever even considered that. She proceeded to flip the entire defense grid inside out using Part 6. The Council's Emergency Broadcast, continued Secretary Kellen. You cannot challenge the Arcturus battle fleet to what you call a 1v1 in space. No, we will not add a 360 no-scope clause to the Articles of War. And please, stop referring to the Council Defense Committee as your raid group. Transmission paused. Tactical assessment servers require emotional support. Resuming final segment of emergency broadcast. This is High Counselor Darian Talk, delivering what can only be described as a surrender to chaos itself. After extensive deliberation, which mostly involved watching our most prestigious institutions collapse into what humans call collective brain farts, the Council has reached a conclusion about the human situation. Secretary Kellen, no, a drum roll is neither necessary nor possible with mandibles. We give up. Yes, you heard that right. The mighty Galactic Council, governing body of 1,000,000 civilizations, curator of countless eons of wisdom, has officially adopted the human phrase, if you can't beat them, join them. This is now our new operating principle. Our official report, titled, Well, This is Happening, whether we like it or not, outlines our acceptance of several fundamental truths. First, we acknowledge that humans are not, as we once suspected, operating on some grand master plan. They are, in fact, just vibing. We've spent incalculable resources trying to decipher their strategy, only to discover that they don't have one. And somehow, that makes them unstoppable. Second, we're officially reclassifying human innovation as weaponized ADHD on a species-wide scale. Their ability to solve incredibly complex problems by apparently not even recognizing that those problems are supposed to be impossible has now been deemed a fundamental force of the universe, on par with gravity and electromagnetism. Third, we are disbanding the Committee for Maintaining Galactic Order. Instead, they've been replaced by something called a Chaos Coordination Discord server. Incredibly, it's much more efficient. The server's most active channel is just reaction GIFs, yet somehow, intergalactic productivity has increased by 3,000%. Fourth, we're rewriting our first contact protocols. Instead of our traditional mathematical greeting sequence, we will now be using something humans call a vibe check. Yes, I hate that I had to say that out loud. No. We don't understand how it works either, but for some inexplicable reason it does. The Council itself is undergoing significant reforms. We've replaced our traditional robes of office with something called casual Friday attire. Our formal titles have been updated to include what humans refer to as energy descriptions. I am now officially High Counselor Darian Talk, radiating distinguished panic energy. Secretary Kellen, your new title cannot be Chief Vibe Master Supreme. We've been over this. Our long-term forecasting models now predict that within a standard solar cycle, the following changes will become universal. Quantum mechanics will be officially renamed spooky space feelings. The universal greeting will be finger guns. All diplomatic credentials will require at least one emoji. Faster-than-light travel will be powered primarily by what humans call shenanigans. The galaxy's primary currency will be based on meme quality. And perhaps most terrifyingly, we're all okay with this. The Council's final official act under the old system is to issue this warning. Humanity is not trapped in space with us. We are trapped in space with them, and they're here to party. To any civilizations receiving this broadcast who have not yet encountered humans, run. Although it probably won't help. They'll likely invent something that breaks the laws of physics just to catch up with you faster. To those already affected by human chaos, welcome to the party, I guess. The Council's official Discord server now has channels for sharing memes, pet pictures, and unauthorized solutions to supposedly impossible problems. End of final recording. Secretary Kellen, you can put away the party poppers. No, we are not going to end this with a dance break. What do you mean you've already started? Why is the emergency broadcast system playing something called Caramel Dancin'? Transmission ended. Post-credit scene. Secretary Kellen's TikTok about this meeting has somehow become the new galactic constitution.